Assalamualaikum. Today we start the differences between the maxillary first, second and third molar. Yesterday topic कंप्लीट नहीं हुआ था, इसको हम कंप्लीट कर लेते हैं. आवाज़ आ रही है? Okay. Now we start the buccal spec. ठीक है. Maxillary first molar, second and third molar में क्या डिफरेंस होगा. ठीक है. बकल स्पेक्ट में फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल हम देखेंगे क्राउन विथ वाइडेस्ट ऑफ थ्री मेजर बकल of three cusps, moderate width, and the smallest of the three distobuccal cusps, much shorter than mesiobuccal cusp. ठीक है. क्राउन हाइट क्या होगी? क्राउन हाइट ऑन डिस्टल स्लाइटली लेसर देन ऑन mesial. Second molar distal crown height much shorter than mesial, and third molar distal crown height much more shorter than mesial. Distal crown tilt crown nearly upright on the root base. Crown shows slightly distal tilt on root base due to shorter distobuccal curve. More distal tilt on root base. Mesial and distal profiles. Mesial and distal crown outlines nearly equal size. In second molar में क्या होगा? Shorter होंगी mesial distal crown outline shorter than mesial crown outline, and third molar distal outline much shorter than mesial outline form. Occlusal surface on buccal surface nearly horizontal. Salents equally cervically mesial to distal, slants more cervically towards the distal. Buccal dental groove separating two buccal cusps relatively longer. सेकंड में क्या होगा? शॉर्टर होगा, और डिस्टल में क्या है? शॉर्टेस्ट है. Buccal pit more pronounced buccal groove often ends here in buccal pit. Second molar less marked, and third molar may be absent. Proximal contacts mesial distal at junction of occlusal and middle third. मिडल थर्ड एंड डिस्टल भी मिडल थर्ड होगा, और थर्ड मोलर में मिडल थर्ड नो डिस्टल कॉन्टैक्ट. ठीक है. विजिबिलिटी ऑफ डिस्टल सरफेस फ्रॉम बकल व्यू. Portion of distal surface visible as the distal surface tapers buccally, and second molar distal surface of crown not visible. In third molar distal surface of crown not visible. And cervical ridge on buccal surface prominent cervical ridge. In second molar less prominent, and third molar least prominent cervical ridge. Now lingual aspect. Okay. Lingual aspect, crown width lingually crown is as wide or wider than buccal surface. In mandibular lingual width narrow than on buccal surface, narrow on lingual than buccal. Lingual convergence list are no lingual convergence present. In second molar, slightly lingual convergence, and more lingual convergence in third molar. Number of cusp on lingual aspect, two lingual cusp, one accessory cusp of carabuli. In second molar, two. In four cusp type, rhomboidal shape. अगर होगा तो rhomboidal shape में four cusp होंगे. अगर क्या है आपका थर्ड मोलर की तरह है तो थ्री टाइप होंगे. ठीक है. वन आपका कस्प होगा ऑन लिंगुअल सरफेस. यूजुअली डिस्टल लिंगुअल कस्प एब्सेंट. Occlusal surface nearly horizontal, slants cervically mesial to distal, and slants more to the cervically. ये buccal aspect पर होंगे. ठीक है. Now distal lingual cusp क्या हो गया? Never missing. Maxillary फर्स्ट मोलर में क्या है? टू कस्प प्रेजेंट है बकल पर और टू है लिंगुअल पर. ठीक है. और मिक्सरी सेकंड मोलर में क्या है? डिस्टोलिंगुअल कस्प डिस्टल लिंगुअल कस्प क्या है, एब्सेंट है इंट्री कस्प टाइम। और थर्ड मोलर में क्या यूजली एब्सेंट होता है। Size of distal lingual cusp smaller than mesolingual cusp. In second molar, distal lingual cusp much smaller than mesolingual cusp. Listed size are entirely absent. Accessory cusp क्या होगा? Cusp of carabuli present on the maxillary first molar. In second molar, rarely present, and the third molar not present. ठीक है, cusp of carabuli is additional cusp lingual to the mesolingual cusp. Carabuli traits may be expressed as well formed cusp, a tubercle groove or pit. Carabuli trait is the characteristic feature of maxillary first molar. Lingual segmental groove present between the two lingual cusps, relatively long, present in four cusp type, rhomboidal form of second molar. In third molar, absent. Mesial aspect number of cusps visible from mesial aspect, mesobuccal, mesolingual, and cusp of carabuli. In second molar, mesobuccal, mesolingual, and third molar, mesobuccal and mesolingual. Buccolingual with crown is narrow, buccolingually on distal than mesial side, and crown is more narrow buccolingually on distal side. In third molar, crown is much narrow buccolingually on distal side. Contact areas, mesial contact area narrow than distal. In second molar, mesial and distal contact areas are equally broader, and third molar broader mesial contact and no distal contact. Height of contour बकल एट सर्वाइकल थर्ड, प्रोमिनेंट सर्वाइकल रिज की वजह से होता है, और सेकंड मोलर में सर्वाइकल थर्ड एंड थर्ड मोलर सर्वाइकल थर्ड. लिंगुअल मिडल थर्ड, ठीक है, वेन का स्पेस लार्ज, लिंगुअल crest of contour more closely. In second molar middle third and third molar middle third. Distal aspect, distal surface area shorter. In second molar shorter and narrow, and third molar shorter and narrow. Occlusal aspect. Geometric shape क्या होगी? Rhomboidal. ठीक है, फर्स्ट मोलर. Maxillary second molar rhomboidal or heart shape. Third molar heart shape. Cusp of carabuli present. In second molar absent. Third molar absent. Oblique ridge prominent. In second molar less prominent, and third molar very. Distal lingual cusp size relatively large. In second molar smaller, and third molar smaller, absent. Now maxillary first molar complete. Differences class trait are complete. Any question? Okay. Now we start the mandibular first molar. Mandibular first molar. This is a mandibular first molar, second molar, and third molar impacted teeth. यहाँ विजडम टूथ इसको कहेंगे. इम्पैक्टेड टीथ वो होते हैं जो आपके अरेप्ट नहीं हो पाते, तो उनको हम सर्जरी रिमूव करते हैं या कट करके उसके लिए अरेप्शन के लिए स्पेस बनाते हैं. Now first permanent molar to calcify and erect, it is known as sixth molar tooth. Why? Its number in the lower arch is 6 and its eruption date is 6 years. Functionally, it considered to as the key of occlusion. Introduction. The permanent mandibular molars are the three most posterior teeth in each lower quadrant. Like their maxillary counterparts, they are named first 6th-year molar, second 12-year molar, and third molar wisdom tooth. They are the largest and strongest teeth in the mandibular arch. Mandibular molar crowns are much larger than those of mandibular premolars in all dimensions except occlusogingivally, where they are slightly shorter. Their general size normally decrease from first molar through third molar. The mandibular molars function with the maxillary molars in grinding, and they form root structure and bone support are suited to this role. A review of features when served to differentiate mandibular and maxillary molars include: number one is the crown, which are wider mesodistally than buccal. Crowns which are rectangular are pentagonal from a closer aspect. Crowns which are rhomboidal and inclined to the lingual from proximal aspect. मिक्सेलरी मोलस में जो ज्योमेट्रिकल शेप होती है प्रॉक्सिमल एस्पेक्ट की, वो कौन सी होती है? यस, मिक्सेलरी मोलर में प्रॉक्सिमल एस्पेक्ट ज्योमेट्रिकल शेप क्या होगी? मिक्सेलरी मोलर्स की शेप क्या होगी प्रॉक्सिमल एस्पेक्ट में? आंसर जल्दी बताया करें. नो, आपसे मैक्सिलरी पूछ रही हूँ, नॉट मैंडिबुलर. यस, ट्रेपेजॉइडल होगी, ठीक है, नॉट रोम्बाइडल. रोम्बाइडल क्या है? आपकी मैंडिबुलर मोलर्स में होगी. मेन डिफरेंस आपका यहीं पर आपको पता चल जाता है जब आप डिफरेंसेस लिखते हैं मिक्सेलरी एंड मैंडिबुलर के. तो आप उसमें क्या आपको फ़ौरन से आपको पता होना चाहिए कि मिक्सेलरी मोलर्स की जो ज्योमेट्रिकल शेप होती है प्रॉक्सिमल एस्पेक्ट में, वो ट्रेपेजॉइडल होती है, और मैंडिबुलर की क्या होती है? रोम्बाइडल होती है. बकल एंड लिंगुअल एस्पेक्ट जो होंगे वो ट्रेपेजॉइडल होंगे, और मिक्सेलरी में फोर एस्पेक्ट्स जो हैं वो ट्रेपेजॉइडल होते हैं. The presence of four or five major cusps, of which there are always two lingual cusps of approximately the same size. Maxillary first molar में कितने cusp होते हैं? Maxillary first molar में कितने cusp होते हैं? जिशान, आप बताएं. Maxillary first molar में कितने cusp होते हैं? ठीक है, गुड. फोर जो है वो आपके नॉर्मली जो है फोर नॉर्मली आपके प्रेजेंट होते हैं, फोर मेजर होते हैं और वन माइनर होते हैं. ठीक है. द प्रेजेंस ऑफ टू रूट्स इन मोस्ट केसेस. ठीक है, मिक्सेलरी फर्स्ट मोलर में क्या है? थ्री रूट्स प्रेजेंट होती है, और मैंडिबुलर मोलर्स में क्या है? टू रूट्स होती है. ठीक है, मिजेल एंड डिस्टल. और जो मिक्सेलरी फर्स्ट मोलर सॉरी मिक्सेलरी मोलर्स होते हैं उनमें टू बकल रूट्स होती हैं और वन पैलेटल रूट होता है. नेक्स्ट इज नंबरिंग सिस्टम. यूनिवर्सल नंबरिंग सिस्टम क्या होगा? राइट 30 होगा, और मैंडिबुलर लेफ्ट फर्स्ट मोलर क्या होगा? 19 होगा. Mandibular right and left mandibular quadrant sign, and 6 right and left. Third molar 4 6, and mandibular left first molar 3 6. 4 6 क्या होगा? 4 क्वाड्रेंट नंबर है, 6 टूथ नंबर है. इसी तरीके से मैंडिबुलर लेफ्ट जो होगा उसमें 3 क्वाड्रेंट नंबर है और 6 टूथ नंबर. General form and function. The first molar is the largest and the strongest tooth in the lower arch. It's normally exhibits 5 functional curves. ठीक है. मिक्सेलरी में क्या था? 4 फंक्शनल कर्व थे और 1 माइनर कर्व था. मैंडिबुलर फर्स्ट मोलर में क्या है? 5 कर्व हैं, 3 बकल होंगे और 2 लिंगुअल होंगे. ठीक है. एंड 2 वेल डेवलप्ड रूट्स. The crown is wider mesodistally than buccolingually, and in fact, the mesodistal dimension is greater than that of any tooth in the mouth. The crown is relatively short, occlusal cervically. The only dimensions which is normally less than that of the teeth interior. It displays a trapezoidal outline from the buccal and lingual. It exhibits a rhomboidal form from either proximal aspect. From the occlusal, the general outline is pentagonal. In mastication, it functions with the other molars in grinding. मिक्सेलरी फर्स्ट मोलर में क्या था? occlusal aspect क्या था? रेक्टेंगुलर शेप था. इसमें क्या है? पेंटागोनल शेप. Number of surfaces, it has 5 surfaces: buccal, lingual, mesial, distal, occlusal. Number of roots, it has 2 roots. Buccal aspect. Geometric outline, trapezoidal. Trapezoidal क्या होगा? With small uneven side present cervically and broad surface is the occlusal surface. Mesial outline concave till the contact area at the junction of the occlusal and middle 1/3 and convex occlusal to the contact. This is the mesial outline. Mesial outline क्या है? Concave, concave, this one, concave, contact area at the junction of the occlusal and middle 1/3 and convex occlusal to the contact. occlusal से क्या है? Convex है. और जो आपको सर्वाइकली नजर आ रही है, दिस इज द concave. Distal, this is a distal outline. Distal outline straight till the contact area beneath the distal cusp ridge. The distal margin is generally more convex than the mesial outline. Occlusal outline. Occlusal outline क्या है? Formed by 3 cusps. ठीक है. Mesial outline थी क्या थी? Occlusal 1/3 से क्या था? Convex थी और cervically जो था वो concave थी. Distal outline क्या था? Straight और convex है. अब क्या है? Occlusal outline. This is the occlusal outline. This one. ठीक है. Occlusal surface जो आपको नजर आ रही है, chafing surface is called the occlusal surface. Occlusal surface formed by 3 cusps. ठीक है. Occlusal surface पर क्या होगा? आपको buccal aspect पर 3 cusps present होते हैं on mandibular first molar. This is the mesiobuccal cusp. This is the distobuccal cusp, and third is the distal cusp. The occlusal margin is wider than the outline at the cervical. It is divided into 3 portions by 2 grooves. ठीक है. क्या है? Divided by 2 grooves. This is the buccal groove. This is the distobuccal groove. ठीक है. क्या है, ये मीजियोबक्कल ग्रूव है और ये सॉरी मीजियोबक्कल कस्प है, और ये क्या है, डिस्टोबक्कल कस्प। मीजियोबक्कल और डिस्टोबक्कल कस्प के बिटवीन आपको जो नजर आ रहा है दरमियान में, दिस इज कॉल्ड द बक्कल ग्रूव। डिस्टोबक्कल एंड डिस्टल ग्रूव के दरमियान जो आपको ग्रूव नजर आ रहा है कस्प के दरमियान, उसको हम क्या कहेंगे, डिस्टोबक्कल ग्रूव। Cervical outline straight with dipping into the root bifurcation. Anatomical landmarks क्या होंगे? Two developmental grooves. This is a mesiobuccal. This is a buccal groove. This is a distobuccal groove. This is the mesiobuccal cusp. This is a distobuccal cusp and distal cusp. Cervical ridge at the cervical 1/3. Developmental depressions run mesodistal in the middle 1/3. This is the middle 1/3. Roots. The roots twice the length of the crown. The axes of the roots are inclined distally. This is a distally inclined. Root trunk 3 millimeter. This is the root trunk 3 millimeter. Deep developmental groove extend on the root trunk. Any question in buccal aspect? Buccal aspect में कोई question है? Any question? तो नो स्टार्ट द लिंगुअल एस्पेक्ट। ठीक है, लिंगुअल एस्पेक्ट में क्या होगा, लिंगुअल इन कन्वर्जन्स, टू cusps present, mesolingual and distolingual. Mesial outline straight till the contact area at the junction of the occlusal and middle 1/3. Distal outline till the contact area near the distal cusp ridge. Occlusal outline formed by two lingual cusps, mesolingual and distolingual, of nearly equal width. Cervical outline irregular with dipping into the root bifurcation. Anatomical landmarks. This is a lingual developmental groove. Buccal aspect पे क्या था? Three cusps present थे, mesiobuccal, distobuccal and distal. और in two grooves present थे, buccal groove and distobuccal groove. In lingual aspect, between the mesolingual and distolingual के दरमियान जो आपको groove नजर आ रहा है, this is called the lingual developmental groove. This is the lingual developmental groove. The buccal aspect, this is lingual aspect. The root trunk appears longer on the lingual surface due to, ठीक है, बक्कल में क्या है, कम है, और लिंगुअल एस्पेक्ट में क्या है, ज़्यादा है। किस वजह से है? द अक्लूजल पोजिशन ऑफ सर्वाइकल लाइन, किस वजह से, ठीक है, अक्लूजल पोजिशन ऑफ द सर्वाइकल लाइन एंड लिंगुअल कन्वर्जन्स की वजह से जो है लिंगुअल एस्पेक्ट पर जो रूट ट्रंक है वो लॉन्गर देन लिंगुअल सरफेस लिंगुअल सरफेस. नेक्स्ट इज द मीजियल एस्पेक्ट. मीजियल एस्पेक्ट ज्योमेट्रिक आउटलाइन क्या होगी? रोम्बाइडल एंड इंक्लाइंड लिंगुअली. Mesiolingual cusp is more pointed than mesiobuccal cusp. Okay. Mesiolingual cusp क्या है? Is more pointed than mesiobuccal cusp because it is out of occlusion. The cervical line slants occlusely from the buccal to the lingual side. Anatomical landmarks: contact area centered between lingual below the crest of marginal ridge. This is the contact area. Deep segmental depressions on the mesial surface of the root. Distal aspect. In distal aspect, the crown is shorter distally. Mesial में क्या है? Larger. There is distal conversion. Distal marginal ridges is U-shape. ठीक है. Distal aspect जब आप देखते हैं तो distal aspect पर आपको क्या है? This is U-shape distal marginal ridges present. इसमें क्या है? Shorter है and more cervically than mesial marginal ridges. Distal contact area located below the distal cusp. Now, occlusal aspect. Geometric outline hexagonal. ठीक है. Six sided है. क्या है? Mesiobuccal. ठीक है. Distobuccal. Distal marginal ridges. This is a mesial marginal ridges. Lingual, distal lingual and mesiolingual. The crown's measurements is larger mesiodistal than buccolingual. The crown converges lingually and distally. The occlusal form is roughly pentagonal in shape. Okay? The distal portion of the buccal outline tapers towards the lingual to create the fifth side of the outline. The crown is wider mesiodistally than buccolingually, and it is widest mesiodistally towards the buccal and widest buccolingually towards the mesial. Buccal outline. Okay, the buccal outline is separated into three sections by the two buccal grooves. The relative length of the three portions decreases distally so that the mesiobuccal is longest, distobuccal next, and the distal is the shortest. The buccal line angles are quite rounded, especially when compared to those of inferior teeth and premolars. Lingual outline. The lingual margin is divided into two slightly convex portions by the lingual groove. The mesial portion is slightly the longer of the two. Mesial outline. The mesial outline is divided into two approximately equal segments by the mesial marginal groove. Distal outline. The distal is the shortest of the four margins and consists of two convexities separated by the distal marginal groove. Boundaries. The occlusal table is bounded proximally by the two marginal ridges, mesial and distal, and on the buccal and lingual by the mesial and distal cusp bridges of the five cusps. Components of the occlusal table. There are normally five cusps, all of which are functional, although the distal cusp is much smaller than the others. Despite its name, the distal cusp is grouped with the mesiobuccal and distobuccal cusp are one of the three buccal cusps. Uh, However, from the buccal or occlusal aspects, the reason for the grouping is evident. Mesiobuccal cusp, the mesiobuccal is the bulkiest cusp and the longest of the three buccal cusps, although rather blunt and rounded. Mesobuccal cusp has four cusp ridges, which are number one is the buccal cusp ridge. The buccal cusp ridge extends cervically from the cusp tip about halfway down the buccal surface. Lingual cusp ridge extends lingually to the end at the mesial portion of the central groove. It is the longest and most prominent of the four ridges. Mesial cusp ridge. This cusp ridge extends mesially to the mesiobuccal occlusal point angle area. Distal cusp ridge, it extends distally to the buccal groove. Distobuccal cusp ridge, except for the distobuccal cusp is the smallest of the cusp and has a rounded tip. The distobuccal cusp has four cusp ridges, which are buccal cusp ridge. The buccal cusp ridge extends cervically from the cusp tip about halfway the width of the buccal surface. Lingual cusp ridges, the lingual cusp uh, ridge extends mesolingually to the area of the central pit. Mesial cusp ridge, this cusp ridge extends mesially to the buccal groove. Distal cusp ridge, it extends distally to the distobuccal groove. Though the four inclined planes of both the mesiobuccal and distobuccal cusps are named similarly those of the other posterior teeth. The inclined planes of the three buccal cusps are all functional, while only the buccal two are functional on the lingual cusp. Next is the mesolingual cusp. Along with the distolingual cusp, the mesolingual cusp is the longest and sharpest of the cusp and is the second size to the mesobuccal cusp. There are four cusp ridges. Buccal cusp ridge. The buccal cusp ridge extends from the cusp tip distobuccally to the end of the mesial portion of the central groove. Lingual cusp ridge. The lingual cusp ridge extends cervically about halfway down to the lingual surface. Mesial cusp ridge. This cusp ridge extends mesially to the mesolingual occlusal point angle area. Distal cusp ridge, it extends distally to the end at the lingual groove. Next is the distolingual cusp. The distolingual cusp is quite sharp, but is slightly smaller in size than the mesiolingual cusp. Distolingual cusp has four cusp ridges, same buccal cusp ridge. The buccal cusp ridge extends from the cusp tip mesiobuccally to end in the area of the junction of the distobuccal groove and the distal portion of the central groove. Lingual cusp ridge, it extends in a cervical direction to the middle third of the lingual surface. Mesial cusp ridge, the mesial cusp ridge extends mesially to the lingual groove. Distal cusp ridge, it extends distally to the distolingual occlusal point angle area. Fifth is the distal cusp. The distal cusp is much the smallest and shortest of the five cusps, but is relatively short. Lingual cusp ridge, it extends mesolingually to the end in the distal pit area. Compared other triangular ridges of posterity, it is short and poorly defined. Mesial cusp ridge, the mesial cusp ridge extends from the cusp tip mesobuccally to the distobuccal groove. Its four cusp ridges are buccal cusp ridge. The buccal cusp ridge runs a cervical direction and occupies much of the area surrounding the distal 9 angle. ठीक है, lingual cusp ridge होगी, mesial cusp ridge होगी, distal cusp ridge होगी. Next is the transverse ridges. There are no transverse ridges on the occlusal surface of the mandibular first molar. मेन डिफरेंस आप याद रखिए, मिक्सरी फर्स्ट मोलर में नॉर्मली फोर कस्प होते हैं, वन एक्स्ट्रा कस्प ऑफ कैराबे प्रेजेंट होता है, ऑब्लिक रिच प्रेजेंट होते हैं, ट्रांसवर्स रिचेस प्रेजेंट होती हैं. मैंडिबुलर फर्स्ट मोलर में क्या है, फाइव कस्प नॉर्मली प्रेजेंट होते हैं, थ्री बकल कस्प होते हैं और टू लिंगुअल कस्प होते हैं. इसमें आपके नो ट्रांसवर्स रिच एंड नो ऑब्लिक रिच. Marginal ridges, two marginal ridges are the mesial and distal marginal ridges and includes those limits of the occlusal surface. Okay. The mesial marginal ridge, distal marginal ridge. This is a buccal aspect. This is a lingual aspect. Okay. Mesiobuccal, distobuccal, and distal cusp. This is the distobuccal group, buccal group. This is the lingual group. Fossas. Okay. There are three fossas. A recognizable fossa on the occlusal table with the central fossa encompassing by for the largest area. Okay. This is the central fossa. As the name implies, this fossa is located in the central portion of the occlusal table. It is circular in shape and the largest and deepest of the three fossa. ठीक है, दिस इज द सेंट्रल फोसा. शेप क्या होगी, सर्कुलर शेप. बाउंड्रीज क्या होंगी, इट इज बाउंडेड बाय द triangular ridges of the four major cusps as well as the distal cusp ridges of the mesiobuccal and the mesiolingual cusp and mesial cusp ridges of the distobuccal and distolingual cusps. Mesial triangular fossa. This is a mesial triangular fossa. Mesial triangular fossa is location and limit similar to the same fossa on other posterior. It is deeper and more distant than the distal triangular fossa. Its boundaries include the mesial marginal ridges, triangular ridges of the two mesial cusps and the mesial cusp ridges of the two mesial cusps. Okay, mesial cusp. This one mesial cusp ridges, mesiobuccal cusp ridge, and mesiolingual cusp ridges. This is the marginal ridges. This is the triangular ridges. Distal triangular ridge fossa. This is the distal triangular fossa. This is the central fossa, mesial triangular fossa, and distal triangular fossa. Three fossas are present in the mandibular first molar. In maxillary molars, four fossas, two major fossas and two minor fossas. Major fossas क्या है? Central fossa and distal fossa. Minor fossa, mesial and distal fossa. In mandibular first molar, three fossas are present on the occlusal surface. Major fossa is the central fossa, mesial triangular fossa, and distal triangular fossa. This fossa has a location similar to the counterparts on the other posterior. It is shallow and least distant of the three occlusal fossa on the tree. Okay? It is bounded by portions of the distal cusp and distal marginal ridges. This is the distal marginal ridges and as well as the triangular ridges of the distal and distolingual cusps. Next is the pits and grooves. Okay, three pits are present. The occlusal surface of the first molar has the most complex groove pattern of any of the mandibular molars. Number one is the central pit. This is the central pit. The central pit is located in the central fossa and is the deepest pit on the occlusal surface. It is situated midway basiodistally and more than halfway from buccal to the lingual. It is at the junction of the three primary developmental grooves. Mesiobuccal, ठीक है, central pit. This is the central pit. Central pit में क्या होगा? This groove extends from the central pit buccally onto the buccal surface. In its most lingual portion, it is confluent with the mesial portion of the central groove. ठीक है, इसमें क्या है? मीजियोबक्कल ग्रूव. दिस इज द मीजियोबक्कल ग्रूव. ठीक है, और ये क्या है? सेंट्रल पिट. सेंट्रल पिट के अंदर क्या है? बक्कल ग्रूव अटैच होगा. दिस ग्रूव एक्सटेंड्स फ्रॉम द सेंट्रल पिट buccally onto the buccal surface. In its most lingual portion, it is confluent with the mesial portion of the central groove. Distobuccal groove. ठीक है, क्या होगा? Distobuccal groove. Distobuccal groove stands in distobuccal direction. ठीक है, ये क्या होगा? आपका बकल ग्रूव हो गया और ये क्या है? डिस्टोबकल ग्रूव. ठीक है, दिस इज द लिंगुअल ग्रूव. अब क्या है? बकल ग्रूव और डिस्टोबकल ग्रूव आर अटैच्ड इन द सेंट्रल ग्रूव pit. The distobuccal groove stands the distobuccal direction from the central pit onto the buccal surface. In its most lingual area, it's confluent with the distal portion of the central groove. ठीक है, दिस इज द सेंट्रल ग्रूव. दिस इज द क्या है? सेंट्रल पीट. लिंगुअल ग्रूव. द लिंगुअल ग्रूव. दिस इज द लिंगुअल ग्रूव. The lingual groove extends from the central pit lingually onto the lingual surface. This is the mesial pit. The mesial pit is situated halfway buccolingually in the deepest area of the mesial triangular fossa. It is not as deep as the central pit. This pit is the junction of four developmental grooves. Number one is the central groove. Second is the mesiobuccal triangular groove. Third is mesial marginal groove. And fourth is the mesiolingual triangular groove. This is the mesial pit, mesial triangular fossa. This is the क्या है? Mesiobuccal triangular groove, mesiolingual triangular groove, mesial marginal groove, and central groove. Four grooves are attached in the mesial pit. Distal pit. The distal pit is located midway buccolingually in the depth of the distal triangular fossa. It is not so deep as the central mesial pit. It is the union of three developmental grooves: central groove, distal lingual triangular groove, and distal marginal groove. The central groove is entirely extends from the mesial pit to the distal pit and includes its mesial portion, its distal portion, and segments of the mesiobuccal and distobuccal groove. Roots. The mandibular first molar has root trunk which bifurcates to form mesial and distal roots branches. Both roots are widest buccolingually and both may have developmental depressions on the mesial and distal root surfaces. Termed longitudinal grooves are root concavities. Two roots present, mesial root and distal root. Mesial root, the mesial branch is the widest and strongest of the two roots. It curves mesially from the cervical line to the middle third. and then angled slightly distally to the apex. Its buccal and lingual surfaces are more convex throughout their length, while the mesial and distal surfaces are flattened to concave, depending on the presence and prominence of longitudinal grooves. The distal branch is generally smaller and weaker than the mesial root. It is usually straight, but on occasion it occurs mesially or distally in the apical third. Normally, only the mesial root surface has a longitudinal groove. The buccal and lingual surfaces are convex throughout their length. Mid-root section, in cross-section at this level, both roots are wider buccolingually at the and the mesial root has a large outline. The outline is convex buccally and lingually on both roots, mesially and distally. The outline is flattened or concave, depending on the presence and prominence of longitudinal grooves. Mandibular first molar is finished. Anatomical landmarks क्या होंगे? First of all, elevations देखते हैं, ठीक है? 5 cusps. On buccal surface are present 5 cusps: mediobuccal, distobuccal, and distal cusp. Lingually, mesolingual, and distolingual cusps. Mesial marginal ridges. This is a distal marginal ridge. One major central fossa and central pit. Two minor fossas, mesial and distal triangular fossas. Developmental grooves. Central groove is zigzag shape. This is the central groove. This is the buccal groove. This is the distobuccal groove and lingual. Variations and anomalies. The first molar exhibit a few developmental anomalies on rare occasions. The ground may lack a distal cusp. The mulberry molars, along with the Hodgkin's incisors, are a consequence of congenital syphilis. On the first molars, the cusps are more centrally positioned on the occlusal table, creating a pinnate appearance. The first molar exhibits three roots, while the mesial root has buccal and lingual branches. Pulp cavities. Pulp chamber. The pulp chamber is broad mesodistal. It is almost rectangular in shape. There is a pulp horn beneath each cusp. This is the pulp horn. Root canals, three main root canals. Mesial root, two roots canals, while distal root has one root canal. The two mesial root canals appears in X-ray overlapping each other. Abnormalities you may find. This is the abnormalities. Three or four roots. ठीक है, mandibular first molar में क्या है? Three or four roots. Four root canals. enumerate the names of the following elevations and depressions. What is this? ये कौन सा ग्रुप है? Central group. Very good, Papa. What is this? सेंट्रल ग्रुप अब जो मैंने आपसे पूछा है ये कौन सा स्ट्रक्चर आपको नजर आ रहा है? Recent marginal range. What is this? मोहम्मद सर आप बताइए व्हाट इज दिस? सर आप बताइए ये क्या है? व्हाट इज दिस स्ट्रक्चर? हेलो फातिमा आप बताएं व्हाट इज दिस स्ट्रक्चर? ठीक है सेंट्रल पे ओके pit and central fossa. What is this? ये जो आपको स्ट्रक्चर नजर आ रहा है बट क्या है? Distal triangular fossa. Very good, Meena. Distal triangular fossa. What is this? What is this? Mesiobuccal groove. Good. ये कौन सी सरफेस होगी? बकल होगी, लिंगुअल? Buccal. Very good. This one? Mesial. This one? ये कौन सा स्पेक्ट है? लिंगुअल। नुमान, आप इसको जो मैंडिबुलर मोलर्स है ना, जो मैंडिबुलर टीथ है, उनमें लिंगुअल एस्पेक्ट होता है। जो अपर होते हैं उनमें आपका पैलेटल एस्पेक्ट होता है, क्योंकि आपके अपर जो है वो पैलेटल पैलेट मौजूद होती है, तो उसको हम पैलेटल कहते हैं। जब लिंगुअली अगर हम कहेंगे तो वो मैंडिबुलर टूवर्ड्स द लिंगुअल, तो उसको हम लिंगुअल एस्पेक्ट कहते हैं। ओके, लास्ट डिस्टल। बकल सरफेस है, ठीक है, लिंगुअल सरफेस है, मीजल सरफेस एंड डिस्टल। हम इसको आइडेंटिफिकेशन किस तरीके से कर सकते हैं? आइडेंटिफिकेशन फीचर्स क्या हैं? The mandibular first molar have 5 cusps and 2 well-formed roots. The distal cusp is the smallest cusp and helps to identify the tooth and its size. Side identification क्या होगी? Smallest cusp, that is the distal cusp, helps in identifying the side. Root often show distal curvature. ठीक है, मैंडिबुलर फर्स्ट मोलर को हम एक जस्ट रिवाइज कर लेते हैं। ठीक है, इसमें क्या आते हैं? 5 लूप्स होते हैं, मीजियोबक्कल, डिस्टोबक्कल, मीजियोलिंगुअल, डिस्टोलिंगुअल एंड डिस्टल। ठीक है, रूट्स कितनी होती हैं? 2 रूट्स होती हैं, मीजियल रूट एंड डिस्टल रूट। कस्प जो है आपके, कस्प क्या होते हैं? मीजियोबक्कल, डिस्टोबक्कल, मीजियोलिंगुअल, डिस्टोलिंगुअल एंड डिस्टल। 5 कस्प होते हैं। रीजेस कितनी होती हैं? कस्प रीजेस, डिस्टल कस्प रीजेस, ट्रायंगुलर रीजेस ऑफ द कस्प, बक्कल रीज ऑन बक्कल कस्प, लिंगुअल रीज और मार्जिनल रीजेस कौन सी होंगी? मीजियल एंड डिस्टल। फोसास क्या होंगे? 3 फोसास होंगे। 1 मेजर फोसा होगा, सेंट्रल फोसा, जो कि इरेगुलर शेप होता है। माइनर फोसा में क्या है? मीजियल ट्रायंगुलर फोसा एंड डिस्टल ट्रायंगुलर फोसा। ग्रूव्स कौन कौन से होंगे? सेंट्रल डेवलपमेंटल ग्रूव, मीजियोबक्कल डेवलपमेंटल ग्रूव, डिस्ट्रोबक्कल डेवलपमेंटल ग्रूव एंड लिंगुअल डेवलपमेंटल ग्रूव। पिट्स कितनी होंगी? 3 पिट्स होंगी, सेंट्रल इन सेंट्रल फोसा, मीजियल पिट इन मीजियल ट्रायंगुलर फोसा, डिस्टल इन ट्रायंगुलर फोसा, buccal pit on the buccal surface, lingual pit on the lingual surface. Now mandibular first molar complete. Inshallah, tomorrow start the mandibular second molar and third molar. Any question? Okay. Allah Hafiz.